Philadelphia is buzzing again, and this offseason already feels like one of those turning points that can redefine everything we think we know about this roster. There is tension in the air, there are strategic moves being made behind closed doors, and there are whispers that refuse to die down. And when you look at the direction the organization seems to be taking, it is clear that this is not just about filling vacancies. This is about identity. Let us start with the coaching staff, because that is where the tone is being set. The addition of Gerard Johnson, formerly the quarterback's coach of the Houston Texans, says a lot about what the Eagles are trying to build offensively. Yes, he comes in after a turbulent stretch in Houston, and yes, when a young quarterback struggles, the quarterback's coach often absorbs the criticism. That is the nature of the position. But dismissing Gerard Johnson based on that would be short-sighted. In Philadelphia, the expectation is different. The infrastructure is different. The talent surrounding the quarterback room is different. And when you stack this hire alongside other staff additions, the message becomes clearer. The Eagles appear to be leaning heavily into a West Coast structure. You can see the blueprint forming. Precision timing, rhythm passing concepts, spacing that forces defenses to defend every blade of grass. This is not a minor tweak. This feels like a philosophical shift. Nick Sirianni has made it known in the past that he values continuity, and there will still be elements of the previous system embedded into the playbook. But the volume of changes on staff suggests that evolution is not optional. It is necessary. And when you talk about evolution, you have to talk about money and long-term planning. Reports have suggested that Philadelphia wants to make a major in-house commitment, and that likely means securing cornerstone pieces on the defensive line. Locking up players like Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter is not just about reward. It is about cap management. Extensions can create flexibility. Flexibility creates opportunity. And opportunity is what allows a front office to make that one bold move that separates contenders from champions. But while the front office strategizes, fans are locked into another storyline that refuses to calm down. The situation surrounding Nakobe Dean has ignited heated debate. On one side, you have those who believe his talent is undeniable when healthy. On the other, you have those who cannot ignore the injury history that has followed him since his college days. The truth is uncomfortable. When Nakobe Dean is on the field, he brings intensity, intelligence, and sideline-to-sideline pursuit that changes the complexion of the defense. But availability matters. Durability matters. And in a league defined by physical punishment, history often predicts future concern. The twist comes with outside interest, particularly from the Dallas Cowboys. The idea of a divisional rival aggressively pursuing one of your defensive leaders is enough to spark frustration across the fan base. Dallas is not just another team. It is the team. The rivalry between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys is layered with decades of tension. So when speculation surfaces that Dallas is prepared to go all in, emotions escalate quickly. From a purely business perspective, you understand how these negotiations unfold. Agents compare offers. Players consider financial advantages, location, scheme fit. Loyalty is real, but compensation is tangible. If Dallas believes Nakobe Dean fits their defensive structure and they are willing to present a more aggressive offer, the situation becomes complicated. That does not mean fans have to like it. It simply means this is the reality of modern professional football. Now shift the spotlight to perhaps the most explosive storyline of them all. A.J. Brown. Few players have altered the trajectory of this franchise as dramatically as he has. Since arriving in Philadelphia, he has transformed the passing attack into something defenses genuinely fear. He helped push this team to 2 Super Bowl appearances. He delivered in critical moments. He stretched the field, demanded double coverage, and changed how opponents game plan. So when rumors surface that he may want out, you cannot brush that aside. According to circulating information, there is belief in some circles that A.J. Brown has privately expressed interest in being traded. Not speculation based on body language. Not vague social media hints. Direct comments in private conversations. That is what makes this different. And if you step back and analyze it without emotion, there is logic you can trace. A.J. Brown has achieved team success. He has a championship ring. But elite wide receivers often measure legacy through production. Targets, yardage, touchdowns, all-pro selections, Pro Bowl appearances, being recognized as the unquestioned number 1 at your position across the entire league. In Philadelphia, The offense is balanced. Devonta Smith commands respect. The running game has been dominant. The tight end position is involved. This is not an offense designed to funnel 20 targets per game to one receiver. If A.J. Brown wants the statistical spotlight that players like Ja'Marr Chase consistently receive in Cincinnati, the current structure may not satisfy that ambition. That does not make him selfish. It makes him competitive. Elite players are wired differently. They want championships and individual dominance. They want their names mentioned in the same breath as the greats. There may also be internal dynamics at play. Sometimes tension between star players and coaching philosophies simmers beneath the surface. Disagreements over usage, scheme, or vision can grow quietly until they reach a boiling point. If A.J. Brown feels constrained within the current system, that frustration can evolve into trade interest. The front office response reportedly reflects strength. Asking for a first-round pick in exchange signals confidence in his value. It tells the league that Philadelphia is not desperate. They recognize what he brings. They understand that elite wide receivers do not grow on trees. If another franchise wants him, the cost will be significant. And that is where this becomes fascinating. Do you hold firm and risk friction? Do you negotiate and reshape the roster? Do you trust that adjustments within the system can reignite alignment between player and organization? These are not small decisions. They are franchise-defining crossroads. While those conversations unfold, the draft looms in the background. The scouting combine offered glimpses of potential future impact players, and one defensive back in particular has generated serious intrigue, Dylan Thielman. His performance in Indianapolis was electric. A 40-yard dash time in the mid-4.3s. An explosive vertical leap surpassing 40 inches. Elite short area burst. The measurables jump off the page, but it is the fluidity on film that truly excites evaluators. He projects as a versatile safety capable of covering slot receivers, tracking tight ends, and closing downhill with authority. In a defense that values intelligence and adaptability, that skill set is priceless. Comparing him stylistically to Reed Blankenship makes sense in terms of instincts, but Thielman brings a different athletic ceiling. He has the range to erase mistakes and the acceleration to recover when initially beaten. Draft positioning will dictate everything. If he remains available when Philadelphia is on the clock, the temptation will be real. Needs at safety are not hypothetical. They are tangible. And when a prospect combines athletic profile with on-field production, passing becomes increasingly difficult to justify. What makes this entire draft conversation even more intense is the context surrounding the roster. When you look at where the Eagles stand defensively, there are pieces in place, but there are also pressure points. Safety is not just a luxury discussion. It is about stability on the back end. It is about preventing explosive plays in January, not just stacking tackles in September. When a prospect like Dylan Thielman flashes elite range, ball tracking skills, and real closing speed, you have to evaluate how that translates into postseason football. His 40-yard dash time in the 4.3 range was impressive, but what truly stood out was the 10-yard split. That burst tells you how quickly he can trigger downhill. In a league where offenses rely on quick passing concepts and yards after catch, that first step can be the difference between a 5-yard gain and a 30-yard disaster. Add in a vertical jump that cleared 40 inches, and you are talking about a defensive back with legitimate explosion. That matters when you are contesting jump balls against 6'4" receivers or athletic tight ends who thrive in contested catch situations. The Eagles have always valued intelligence in the secondary. Reed Blankenship has carved out respect not because he is the most physically dominant athlete, but because he diagnoses plays early. He anticipates route combinations. He positions himself properly. Now imagine pairing that type of mental processing with elite athletic traits. That is why some evaluators see Thielman as more than depth. They see long-term starter potential, someone who could anchor the position for years if developed correctly. Of course, nothing in the draft is guaranteed. Prospects rise and fall based on medical evaluations, interviews, and how front offices prioritize positional value. It would not be shocking to see another team fall in love with his upside and select him earlier than projected. And if that happens, the Eagles must pivot quickly. That is the reality of draft night. You prepare for scenarios, not certainty. But even beyond the draft, the emotional center of this offseason continues to circle back to A.J. Brown. Because while young prospects represent the future, established stars define the present. You cannot ignore what Brown has meant to this offense since arriving from the Tennessee Titans. He did not just put up numbers. He shifted defensive alignments. Safeties shaded toward his side. Corners pressed with hesitation. Offensive coordinators built game plans knowing he could tilt coverage on his own. If there is truth to the idea that he desires a different situation, the front office is facing a layered dilemma. Trading a player of his caliber is not simply about compensation. It is about messaging. It signals to the locker room how the organization handles elite talent. It affects the quarterback's comfort level. It reshapes how opposing defenses approach Philadelphia every Sunday. There is also the question of timing. The Eagles are not rebuilding. They are competing. Removing a primary weapon while still in a championship window feels counterintuitive unless the return accelerates roster balance in other areas. A first-round pick sounds appealing on paper, but draft capital is potential. A.J. Brown is production. He is proven under playoff lights. That distinction cannot be minimized. At the same time, the financial landscape of the National Football League forces hard choices. Wide receiver contracts continue to climb. The market resets almost annually. If Brown envisions himself among the very top tier statistically and financially, negotiations can become complex. Balancing long-term cap flexibility with short-term competitiveness requires precision. The Eagles have navigated similar crossroads before, but each situation carries its own emotional weight. And then there is the human component. Players are not just assets. They are competitors with pride. Brown has always played with visible passion. When he celebrates, it is explosive. When he is frustrated, it is equally visible. Some interpret that fire as leadership. Others question whether it signals deeper dissatisfaction. Without direct confirmation, much remains speculation. But perception influences narrative, and narrative influences pressure. While all eyes remain fixed on that storyline, the Nakobe Dean conversation continues simmering in the background. It is impossible to discuss his future without acknowledging both sides of the equation. On film, when healthy, he plays with urgency. He attacks gaps decisively. He communicates adjustments pre-snap. His instincts allow him to flow laterally and meet ball carriers in space. That is not easily replaced. Yet the injury record creates hesitation. Front offices analyze availability trends with cold objectivity. They examine missed games, recovery timelines, and long-term durability projections. In a division as physical as the NFC East, longevity matters. The thought of him wearing a Dallas Cowboys uniform only intensifies the stakes. The rivalry is not theoretical. It is visceral. Seeing a former Eagle contribute to Dallas' success would sting, regardless of contractual logic. Ultimately, this offseason feels like a balancing act between continuity and reinvention. The coaching staff additions hint at schematic evolution. Potential contract extensions suggest internal commitment. Draft evaluation points toward athletic upgrades in the secondary. And trade rumors involving one of the franchise's brightest stars inject uncertainty into everything. FlyEaglesFly News family, smash subscribe and hit like. Your support keeps the freshest Philadelphia Eagles updates flying in. Drop your take in the comments, and let's talk birds. Whispers around the league suggest that the situation involving Tanner McKee may be far more defined than the public narrative implies. Inside the building, the Philadelphia Eagles are believed to have quietly reached a clear internal decision about the young quarterback's future, even if no formal announcement has surfaced. What looks like patience from the outside may actually be a carefully mapped-out plan that reflects confidence rather than hesitation. According to league chatter, the Eagles' coaching staff sees McKee as more than a developmental arm. There is a growing belief that his grasp of the playbook, command in the huddle, and willingness to operate within structure have accelerated his standing. While he has remained largely under the radar, sources speculate that the organization values his profile as a steady, cost-controlled option who can execute the system without forcing changes to the offensive identity. The speculation goes further. Some insiders hint that the front office has already closed the file on external quarterback scenarios, choosing instead to invest coaching resources in McKee's progression. This does not necessarily mean an immediate promotion or dramatic shift, but rather a defined lane, continued reps, incremental responsibility, and a long-term evaluation that favors continuity over splash. In a league often driven by urgency, that kind of restraint can be telling. What fuels the rumor mill is the sense that this decision aligns with the Eagles' broader roster philosophy. Depth, flexibility, and internal development have become hallmarks of the franchise's recent thinking within the National Football League. MCKEE, by all accounts, fits that mold perfectly. Low drama, high preparation, and an understanding that his opportunity will come through reliability rather than hype. For now, nothing is official, and the silence only amplifies the intrigue. But around league circles, the talk is consistent. The Eagles have made up their minds. Tanner McKee is not just passing through Philadelphia. In the shadows of louder storylines, a quiet decision may already be shaping the team's quarterback future. That's a wrap from FlyEaglesFly News. If you want the fastest Eagles updates, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Sound off in the comments. Let's talk birds.